Some people walk into a room and are forgotten before they even leave. Not because they are ugly. Not because they are boring. Not because they have nothing valuable to say. But because something in them is constantly asking for approval, and people can feel it. They laugh too quickly. They explain too much. They try to impress people who have not even earned access to them. And the painful part is this. The harder they try to be remembered, the easier they become to ignore. Because human beings do not remember the person who begs for attention. They remember the person who carries themselves like they are not afraid to be unseen. That is the strange psychology of becoming unforgettable. It is not about being louder. It is not about being perfect. It is not about becoming the most attractive, the most successful, or the most interesting person in every room. It is about becoming emotionally rare. And emotionally rare people are hard to forget. Think about someone you still remember from years ago. Maybe they did not talk much. Maybe they did not chase anyone. Maybe they were not even trying to stand out. But something about them stayed with you. Their calm. Their presence. Their confidence. The way they listened. The way they did not panic when nobody clapped for them. The way they made you feel seen without needing you to worship them. That is what people remember. Not performance. Presence. But most people misunderstand this. They think being unforgettable means being impressive. So they start performing. They post more. They talk more. They exaggerate stories. They try to look busy, mysterious, successful, attractive, intelligent, emotionally unavailable, or hard to get. But none of that creates real presence. It creates noise. And noise gets attention for a moment. Then it disappears. Real presence works differently. It does not scream, "Look at me." It quietly says, "I know who I am, even if you do not notice yet." And that kind of energy is powerful because it is rare. Most people are walking around with invisible hunger. Hunger to be chosen. Hunger to be praised. Hunger to be validated. Hunger to be told they matter. So when they meet someone who is not starving for attention, it feels different. It creates curiosity. It creates respect. It creates tension. People wonder, why are they so calm? Why are they not trying to prove themselves? Why do I feel comfortable around them? Why do I still think about them? The answer is simple, but uncomfortable. Unforgettable people do not make you feel their need. They make you feel their depth. And there is a huge difference. Need says, "Please like me." Depth says, "I am already rooted." Need talks too much because silence feels dangerous. Depth can sit in silence because it is not empty inside. Need changes personality depending on who is watching. Depth stays steady. Need tries to win every moment. Depth is not afraid to let a moment pass. This is why trying too hard often destroys the very thing you want. When you try too hard to be liked, people feel pressure. When you try too hard to be respected, people sense insecurity. When you try too hard to look confident, people notice the performance. When you try too hard to be unforgettable, people remember the effort, not the essence. An effort without self-respect feels heavy. You have probably felt this before. Someone enters your life and immediately tries to impress you. They mention achievements too quickly. They turn every conversation back to themselves. They agree with everything you say because they are afraid to disappoint you. At first, you may be polite. But deep down, something pulls away. Not because they are bad. But because they are not present with you. They are managing your opinion of them. And that is exhausting. Now think of the opposite. Someone who listens without rushing to respond. Someone who does not panic when you disagree. Someone who can laugh at themselves without disrespecting themselves. Someone who gives attention, but does not beg for it back. Someone who has standards, but does not make everyone feel small. That person feels different. They feel grounded. And grounded people become memorable because they give others something rare. Emotional safety. People do not just remember what you say. They remember how their nervous system feels around you. Did they feel judged? Did they feel drained? Did they feel like they had to perform? Or did they feel calm, respected, and quietly understood? This is why some people are unforgettable without being dramatic. They regulate the emotional atmosphere around them. They do not dump chaos into every room. They do not make every conversation about their pain. They do not use vulnerability as a weapon. They do not confuse being intense with being deep. They have learned something most people avoid learning. Your emotions are real, but they are still your responsibility. That one lesson can change everything. Because when you stop making other people responsible for your worth, your presence becomes lighter, cleaner, stronger. People can come close without feeling trapped. They can enjoy you without feeling like they must fix you. And that is rare. But here is the hidden psychological reason most people struggle with this. They are not actually trying to become unforgettable. They are trying to become impossible to abandon. There is a difference. A person who wants to be unforgettable from a healthy place wants to leave value, warmth, truth, and presence behind. A person who wants to be unforgettable from fear wants control. They want to be so special that nobody leaves. So attractive that nobody chooses someone else. So useful that nobody replaces them. So impressive that nobody ignores them. But fear always leaks. It leaks through jealousy. It leaks through over-explaining. It leaks through forced confidence. It leaks through chasing people who give the smallest amount of attention. It leaks through pretending not to care while secretly checking who viewed your story, who replied, who liked, who stayed, who left. And the more you try to control how people remember you, the less free you become. Because now your identity lives in other people's reactions. A delayed reply ruins your mood. A cold expression makes you question your worth. A room that does not notice you makes you shrink. And slowly, without realizing it, you become a prisoner of perception. This is the part most people do not want to admit. They do not want confidence. They want constant reassurance. They do not want self-respect. They want proof that they are desired. They do not want presence. They want control over how others see them. But no one becomes unforgettable by being controlled by the room. You become unforgettable when the room no longer controls you. This does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean acting superior. It does not mean pretending you do not need people. That is not strength. That is just fear wearing a darker outfit. Real strength is warmer than that. Real confidence is not "I do not care about anyone." Real confidence is "I care, but I will not abandon myself to be accepted." That is the turning point. The moment you stop negotiating your identity for approval, people start feeling your weight. Not ego. Weight. There is substance in you. There is a center. There is a person behind the personality. And that is what stays in people's memory. So how do you build this? First, stop trying to be interesting and start becoming interested. This sounds simple, but it is rare. Most people listen only long enough to find their turn to speak. They are not hearing you. They are waiting. But when you truly listen, something powerful happens. People feel it. They feel that your attention is not a trick. They feel that you are not trying to dominate the conversation. And in a world where everyone is fighting to be seen, the person who makes others feel seen becomes unforgettable. But listening does not mean becoming invisible. It means being fully there. Ask better questions. Notice what people avoid saying. Pay attention to their tone, not just their words. Remember small details. Not to manipulate. but because presence is built through attention. Second, speak with more honesty and fewer words. Many people talk too much because they are afraid the silence will reveal insecurity. But unforgettable people do not fill every gap. They let their words breathe. They do not explain every joke. They do not justify every boundary. They do not add 10 extra sentences because they fear being misunderstood. They say what they mean. Cleanly. Calmly. And when needed, they stop. This creates power. Because self-respect often sounds like simplicity. I cannot do that. That does not work for me. I disagree. I need time to think. I appreciate you, but I will not chase this. No performance. No drama. No emotional begging. Just clarity. Third, become consistent in small things. People remember how you make them feel, but they also remember whether your energy can be trusted. Do you say one thing and do another? Do you disappear when life gets hard? Do you become kind only when you need something? Do you change your values depending on who is in front of you? Consistency is underrated because it is not flashy. But it is the foundation of respect. A person who keeps their word becomes rare. A person who shows up without needing applause becomes rare. A person who treats the waiter, the stranger, the friend, and the successful person with the same basic respect becomes rare. And rare is memorable. Fourth, stop leaking your energy everywhere. Not every thought needs to become a post. Not every feeling needs to become a confession. Not every opinion needs to be defended. Not every person deserves access to your inner world. The more you scatter yourself, the less mystery you carry. And mystery is not about being fake. It is about having a private life with depth. A mind that is not constantly performing. A soul that is not always available for public reaction. People are drawn to those who seem to have a life beyond the room. A purpose beyond attention. A center beyond approval. So build something privately. Read. Train. Reflect. Create. Heal. Improve your skills. Spend time alone without turning loneliness into panic. Because the person who can sit alone without falling apart brings a different energy into every social situation. They are not there to be rescued. They are there to connect. Fifth, let people misunderstand you without rushing to repair your image. This is difficult. Because the ego hates being misread. It wants to explain. Defend. Correct. Prove. But the more you need everyone to understand you perfectly, the more fragile you become. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is remain steady while someone forms the wrong idea. Not everyone gets access to your full story. Not everyone deserves a courtroom where you defend your character. Time reveals more than explanation ever can. And people with real depth do not waste their life trying to win shallow judges. This is where the deeper insight begins. Being unforgettable is not about becoming someone people cannot stop thinking about. It is about becoming someone who leaves people better than you found them. That is the part ego forgets. Ego wants impact without responsibility. It wants to be desired, admired, remembered. But maturity asks a better question. When people leave your presence, what do they carry with them? Peace? Pressure? Inspiration? Confusion? Warmth? Insecurity? Do they feel smaller after being around you? Or do they feel more human? Because the most unforgettable people are not always the most charming. Sometimes they are the ones who made you believe in yourself for 5 minutes longer. The ones who saw strength in you before you saw it. The ones who corrected you without humiliating you. The ones who gave you truth without cruelty. The ones who stayed calm when your world felt loud. That kind of person does not need to chase memory. They become part of someone's emotional history. And that is deeper than attention. But there is a cost. To become unforgettable in this way, you must give up the childish need to be liked by everyone. You must stop shrinking around strong personalities. You must stop changing your values for temporary acceptance. You must stop confusing attention with connection. You must stop calling it love when it is really attachment. You must stop calling it confidence when it is really performance. You must stop calling it kindness when it is really fear of rejection. This is not easy. Because the old version of you survived by adapting. Smiling when you were uncomfortable. Saying yes when your body said no. Chasing people who gave you crumbs. Performing strength while secretly feeling empty. But at some point, survival patterns become cages. And the person you are trying to become cannot live inside the personality you built just to be accepted. That is the emotional turning point. You do not become unforgettable by adding more decoration to yourself. You become unforgettable by removing what is false. The forced laugh. The desperate explaining. The need to be chosen by people you do not even respect. The habit of abandoning your own standards just to avoid silence. The addiction to proving that you matter. When those things fall away, something real begins to appear. A calmer voice. A stronger presence. A deeper kind of kindness. A confidence that does not need witnesses. And people feel it. They may not know what changed. They may not have the language for it. But they will feel that you are no longer reaching from emptiness. You are standing from fullness. And that changes everything. Because the person who is full does not chase the room. They contribute to it. They do not demand attention. They earn trust. They do not try to be unforgettable. They become difficult to replace because they bring something most people never develop. A grounded mind. A steady heart. A clean presence. So do not ask, how can I make people remember me? Ask, what kind of presence do I leave behind? Do people feel safer around your truth? Do they feel stronger after your words? Do they feel respected by your boundaries? Do they feel your depth without being drowned by your need? That is the real psychology of becoming unforgettable. Not trying harder. Becoming more real. Because the world is full of people performing confidence while quietly begging to be loved. But the person who knows themselves. The person who respects themselves. The person who can be warm without being weak, honest without being cruel, calm without being passive, and confident without needing applause. That person stays. Not in everyone's mind. But in the right people's memory. And that is enough. Because being unforgettable to everyone is vanity. Being unforgettable to the people whose lives you touched with truth, warmth, and strength. That is legacy. If this helped you see yourself differently, subscribe for more deep psychology and self-improvement lessons.